Hi everybody, welcome to the August 2015 Houston Clutter Coaching Meetup group. I'm Gayle Goddard, the Clutter Fairy, and today's topic is Through Rose-Colored Glasses, Sentimentality and Clutter. So the reason that this came up was because one of the things that I collect for clients is eyewear. Everybody has one or two piece glasses laying around the house, right? And so I collect a pair at a time, and they go into this specific corner of my trunk. And I just recently decided that I had enough that I needed to donate them, that it was a big enough pile that it was worth. So I ordered a donation box, and it came, and I dug out everything out of my car. And then I thought, you know, you have all those glasses of yours in the drawer. You should go get your own glasses out. So I went and pulled them out, and here was 9 pairs of glasses. It was 40 years of eyewear.
Wow.
Every time I had changed my glasses since I was a teenager with my first pair of glasses. And I laid them all out, and I was looking at it, I was like, oh my God, I am so attached to these glasses. Like, I can't donate these. They're my eyes. They were on my face. I mean, I had a huge wave of sentiment about these eyewear glasses. And the result of the picture that you have on the meetup is my glasses laid out on the tile taking a picture. I found myself thinking these glasses have been on my face. They've seen my whole life go by, literally, right? And I can't not have them on my face and function. I'm too blind. I can't recognize faces. I wouldn't be able to see your face across the room. I mean, it would just be, it would completely cripple me to not have them. And as a result, they feel like they're part of my head. Like they feel like they're another appendage that's attached to my head. And those of you that wear glasses all the time, a lot of you have glasses on, I'm sure you recognize, like, do you have the phantom feel where you take the glasses off and then you still feel like they're on your face? Right? Isn't that weird? But if you wear them all the time, they're really a part of your body. And so I'm looking at all of them laid out and thinking, oh my God, how can I give up these glasses? What do you do about that, right? It's a sentimental wave, and what do you do? So let's talk about how sentiment gets in the way of getting rid of the 9 pairs of glasses that clearly you can't wear anymore, right? I have a pair that actually is current and working, so my current use is covered. All of those glasses are not strong enough anymore. If I tried to put them on, I wouldn't be able to walk anyway. They're not the right prescription. Some of the styles are hideous. I mean, the ones that I had back in the 70s, oh my God. I have one pair that's like this big around, those bug-eye glasses. They were horrible. I mean, they were in the 70s, but they're not in now, trust me. So I wouldn't be able, they'd be costume, right? I would never actually put them on my face. So clearly all of my feeling was about sentiment. It wasn't about current use. And my problem is solved. I have a good pair. So let's talk about why, how it's hanging me up and what we're going to do about it, right? I don't want to keep them all. And I want to be able to make a judgment about what to keep and what not to keep, or if to keep any of them. Obviously, I'm going to keep these. But the answer to the question, I get this question all the time. I'm really sentimental about fill in the blank. How do I decide what to keep? And the answer is based on 3 things. It's based on your personality. It's based on the item itself. And it's based on your space, your allocated space. So we're going to start talking about personality first. And I'm going to read you a little list here. Are you super sentimental about everything? You might be sentimental if, a la Jeff Foxworthy, right? You're inclined to keep a movie ticket from any movie you've ever seen. You keep anything with your mother's handwriting on it. Ooh, I saw that one. You keep any piece of paper your child ever scratched on. I see a lot of that. I see a lot of, but look, it was his first scribble. Yeah, does it mean anything? No. You keep clothes you wore in high school as you're nearing retirement. You have all photos you've ever taken, even the blurry ones. Right? She's laughing. Ooh, apparently I'm busting her bad. Okay. You have every Christmas card you've ever received. People tend to take their Christmas
inspiration when I make my cards.
Okay. You have the inventory. This is prompted actually by somebody who has come to the meetup before. You have the inventory of a long closed business in storage somewhere. You get the idea, right? These are all examples of being over sentimental about a large population of stuff. So if that's you, you're keeping a lot of keepsakes and giving up a lot of living space in your home. You're surrendering a lot of space to the keepsakes, right? If you're over 30, you're probably already crowding out living space. You know, you're probably half and half. And the thing about it is, the older you get, without curbing that population, the bigger the pile gets, right? Instead of 5 years of Christmas cards, you have 25 years of Christmas cards, right? Instead of 2 years of kids' photos, you have 2 decades of kids' photos. So that sentimental population is only going to get bigger unless you figure out a way to filter it. And it's only going to take over more and more living space, right? So if that's the personality place that you're coming from, it's going to be an issue for you to process and filter, right? At some point, when the balance tips the wrong way, when you're making more room of your house full of keepsakes than you are giving yourself living space, it's starting to impact you in a negative way, right? It's starting to negatively turn your quality of life in your living space. And you don't want to be in that position. You don't want to have surrendered so much of your house that you're crowding out how you can live currently in order to store things that are remembrances from the past. So there's a line that you cross where you've given up more living space than you're keeping. And that's when you know you're in trouble. Let's talk about the items themselves. How many you keep and how much of each kind really depends on the item. So, for instance, photographs. You can keep a lot of photographs. They're small pieces of paper, and they don't take up as much space as the motorcycles that your husband collects, right? If you have a whole bunch of large pieces of antique furniture that came from grandma and great-grandma and great-great-grandma, those large pieces of furniture are going to take up a whole lot more space than the teacup collection that you got from great-great-grandma, right? So the items themselves impact your decision about how much you can keep. If you have 4 households of antique furniture trying to cram into your house, you're losing the fight big time, right? But if you have 4 generations of photographs, you might have that corralled in some boxes, and then you're not surrendering as much living space. So the item itself makes a difference in terms of how you have to filter it and how ruthlessly you have to filter it. I think of the good example for kids, every kid that goes to school comes home, they start a fire hose of paper the minute they go to 1st grade and really kindergarten, and all the little stuff starts coming home from the teachers, right? And all moms start collecting that paper with various degrees of success or failure. And at the end, you end up with a whole bunch of paper, a whole bunch of large things, poster boards, 3D things, dioramas, and things with macaroni sticking off of them. And you know, it's like there's all the regular size paper, but then there's all the art projects that are in various sizes of 3D, right? And that population sort of gets up to a point, and then they sort of cross the line and you stop getting 3D stuff, thank God. You get through a certain point of elementary school and they stop sending home 3D macaroni dioramas, right? So you don't get popsicle stick things with popcorn glued on them anymore. I remember in my 20s, my mother sent me a little box, and in the box was one of my popcorn pieces of art. So we had painted, temper painted a piece of paper, and somehow popcorn was involved, and I glued it on or something. And I had one piece of popcorn paper, and I was grateful it was the only one. And let me tell you, the popcorn piece of paper went into thanks, Mother, for sharing. Appreciate it so much. It's gone. So those kids' papers, the paper stores in a different way than the 3D diorama, than the large poster board, when the trifold thing. They start making, in 6th grade, they start making the trifold speeches in front of the class with the things that are this tall and they fold out like that, and stand, and then you're like, but he spent 4 days making it. It's so cute. Yeah, do you need a history lesson on trifold? No. But that's one of the things that you keep, right? And it's harder to store that kind of stuff than it is to store the 8.5 by 11 pieces of paper that is the homework. So that dichotomy comes into play in every kind of item that you're trying to keep up with in a sentimental way. Your ability to filter it depends on its size and shape and where it's going to fit in your house. If you've inherited 37, antique cars, you have a whole different keepsake issue than if you inherited 40 teacups, right? Now let's talk about your house. So if you're living in a 250 square foot assisted living facility apartment, you cannot keep a massive amount of keepsakes in there, right? It's a small place. If you have a 4-bedroom, 2-story house, 3,000 square feet, you got a little more play, right? So as you're making those decisions about how much keepsake can I keep, your 10% of a really big 2-story house is a larger space than 10% of a 250 square foot apartment. So as you're making your filtering decisions, if you're really sentimental and you're trying to fit it into 1,000 square feet, you're in for a brutal process of purging to make it fit. If you have 3,000 square feet to work with, it might not be as hard. You might be able to save more, make the easy decisions, and put some of the harder decisions off till later. If you're downsizing, you're going from 1,600 square feet to 1,000 square feet. You're going to make a 40% change, but it's not going to be, it's going to be difficult, but it's not going to be horrible. See what I'm saying? So how sentimental you are, the items themselves, how big they are, and how much space you're working with are the parameters that you have to work with when you're trying to filter the keepsakes. Okay? So when people ask me, how much do I keep? It's like, I can't answer that question. How sentimental are you? How much space you got? What are we talking about here? Are we talking about photographs? Are we talking about jewelry? Are we talking about, the fire engine collection that your dad has, It makes a difference. Okay. So I'm talking about a really practical process for a very sentimental feeling. Trying to come at it in a very direct and logical way about something that's inherently illogical. So I recognize that. But it's really the filters that you have to use to make your decisions, however irrational your decisions end up being. You're still going to have to filter it somehow. So we know that the starting position is doing nothing, right? I'm going to keep it all here. I'm going to make no decisions. I'm going to look at nothing. I'm going to cram it in the house and hope I can still find my bed. And I've been in those houses, okay? And none of those people are sleeping good. I'm just saying. The next position off of that is actually starting to go through the stuff, face the sentimental feeling, and making an attempt to filter, right? And sometimes the best you can do is pluck 2 things out of the pile and take them off and get used to the idea of letting go of something. But in the end, however you make the choices, if you want to reclaim living space and you want your house to be easy to function in, you're able to find things. I have a list. Live comfortably in your space and function easily. Find all your current use things effortlessly. And you want to be able to clean and maintain your space with ease. You don't want it to be a huge chore to clean the house, for instance, because you're cleaning around all the stuff. If you want those, if we start with the premise that those are the things that you want, then you're going to need most of your space in the house for living and not for storing, right? So I think by default, we sort of decide that we're going to use part of the house, and people surrender. They start with a junk room, right? They surrender one room because they have 3 bedrooms and they're only using 2 of them. So they surrender one room completely to junk, and they start shoving stuff in there without thinking about it. And then that room gets full, and it starts to creep down the hall and go into little corners in other rooms, and you slowly, in the effort to maintain, I'm making no decisions, I'm looking at nothing sentimental, I'm keeping it all, you slowly give away living space until you're walking through little narrow paths and all of your rooms have boxes up against the wall and all of the closets are completely inaccessible. They're full and you can't get to them anyway to open the door. aside from that being a health hazard, right? Because it's, you know, it's not safe, the house catches on fire, you can't get out. And that happens to people a lot, scarily enough. I think it's a huge mental burden that people don't realize. In an effort to keep all the sentimental stuff because it makes them feel good, they're really creating a negative burden instead in making their life and their quality of life and their ease of movement and relaxation. They're collapsing all of those benefits of living in your own house and having your own space how you want it. You're giving away all those benefits to storing the feel-good stuff that you can't reach, that you can't see, that you can't unpack, that you can't make space for. So the first thing you have to recognize is that you've given over too much space to storage, and you're giving up too much of your living space. And then you sort of have to face why. What's getting in the way? Well, and usually the answer is, I'm sentimental about this stuff, and it is distressing to me to think about it, right? Like, I'm having to look at, here's my son's stuff, and he's off to school now, and that makes me sad. Or these are the things that I inherited from my parents, and I'm the last kid standing. Or that was, this is a whole bunch of stuff from my married life, and my husband is gone, fill in the blank why. And all of these things remind me of a happier time, and I'm super sad about it, and I don't want to face it. Speaking as one who has been through this recently, we all have to go through our grieving process about things that are lost for us. But eventually, you have to come out on the other side and deal with what's there. You can't do it in the beginning. And I'm the perfect testament to that as well. But I don't want you to surrender your space forever to the trauma that is, I've inherited all these things, and I'm not looking at them because they distress me. So that's one version. There's also these are all my kids' things. That's a real positive one. This is all my kids' stuff, and I love my kid. And I love my grandkid, and so I can't possibly let go of anything related to them whatsoever. And which is great, except your kid's just going to keep getting older, and there's always going to be more kid stuff. And granted, while they're living in the house with you, it's going to be super intense volume of kid stuff, and it'll taper off later. But trust me, in that 25 years when they're sort of under your supervision, they're going to generate a whole lot of stuff. Right? And it's not all going to college with them. They're going to leave a whole bunch behind. So taking that I love my family, they make me happy, they're so precious feeling, and attaching it to everything that they ever touch in their lifetime is going to create a problem for you. I'm just warning you now. Okay? So you might want to develop an ability to filter it as they go, or if it's already gone, it's time to circle back and go, okay, now they've launched, and what are we going to do with the rest, right? Okay, so I want to give you a couple of tips about actual filtering and making decisions, hopefully to give you some aid and see if that'll generate some questions from you guys about this. So this is one that works well for large or bulky items. Sometimes a picture of the item is enough. So if you have the 3D popsicle diorama that your kid did about the fort, here's the Alamo and whatever they did, and it's 3D, and you don't want to keep it anymore, the kids in college probably don't need the diorama anymore, right? So, but it's cute and you love it and they did it. Take a picture of it and let the popsicles go out, right? Sometimes taking a picture of the stuff that's weird, the trifold. I just this week was at somebody's house. The son is married. She has a trifold from 8th grade behind a door in the office. It's like, yeah, I know that your son did this, but do you really
won the science fair,
right, or something? It's like, so put the ribbon on there and take a picture, and then you have the digital photo, and you can let the diorama go on to the next little kid, right? You don't really have to keep the whole thing. I'm just saying that it's a good way. Sometimes it bothers people to throw it away or recycle it or whatever they're going to do. But taking the picture means that you're not giving up the sentiment, you're not giving up the memory, and then you can sort of go, I threw it away, I threw the object away, which my son clearly no longer wants now that he's 35. But I still have a picture of it, so I can look at it and go, look, he was so cute in 8th grade, and he did this little diorama, and here's the ribbon, you know. You can trigger your own sentimental feelings about it with something much smaller and easier to manage, is what I'm saying. Try to keep a representative sample. So the example that I have of this is, a lot of times when your parents have passed away, my clients have every piece of handwriting as they're emptying the parents' house. They have all the handwriting with the parents because the handwriting feels very personal and connected. It has their style, you know, and it's very hard to surrender handwriting. And so if you're grieving and you're quickly trying to empty the house, you take all the handwriting with you, right? So you get the Christmas card that they wrote to you, and dear darling, and I love you, and you're so wonderful, love mom. And you also get the grocery list, eggs, butter, right, in the stack. And so for any sentimental thing, keeping a representative sample is a way for you to keep the piece that makes you feel good and not keep 100% of the population. So you want to keep the ones that have the best emotional bang for the buck, right? So you want the Christmas card, not the card that says, printed by Hallmark, love mom. You want the printed by Hallmark, Merry Christmas, darling, I hope next year is great for you, I love you so much, mom, right? You want the one that has a narrative in it that reminds you of something, that makes you feel good, that brings that sense of, this is mom and this is mom's personality written on that paper. And I'm having a hard time saying this right now. Okay. And then it lets you throw the grocery receipt away, right? The list. That's very cute that mother wrote eggs and butter and cheese, but I don't need to keep that piece of paper because I have this great card where she's actually talking to me. And it's a relationship, you know, it's representing your relationship with her in card form. And that's the one that you want to keep, right? So by representative sample, I mean, you know, taking the cream off the top, right? So you get a whole lot of sentiment bang, and you keep the smallest slice, and all of the leftover that doesn't have as much juice for you goes out, because you're going to get a whole bunch of juice from the good stuff. You see what I'm saying? So you can apply that concept to any pile of stuff. I have 50 teacups, and these represent all of our trips, or mother collected these, but this one came from the gas station and that one came from the grocery store, and this is actually our trip to Niagara Falls. And so you keep that one and you let the grocery store cup go out. You see what I'm saying? You can apply it to any population, really. You saw this, they did this a whole lot on Clean House, Clean Sweep, all of the mission organization, all those organizing shows were on. The guys would come on and the decorator would come in and they would take really cool pieces of a collection and they would display them. They'd put them in a shadow box, they'd hang them on the wall, they'd put them on a shelf, right? Display the pieces that are the cream of the crop of your collection, of your photographs or whatever. If you have 50 photographs of your childhood home, grandmother's farm, fill in the blank, you know, find the really great one and frame it and hang it up so you can see it and enjoy it. And the other 49 photographs, you probably don't have to keep them all, right? You can keep another 10 that are really great and you can let the rest go. Because you're honoring the thing that is most important to you, to be able to see the picture that you value, and you're hanging it on the wall and you see it and everybody else that comes in the house sees it and it's important. A lot of times we get so hung up in keeping the sentimental things, we stick them in a box and put them away, and then you never use them or experience them or love them, right? And you're keeping them and the gems are buried, right? But you can give yourself that warm feeling every day if you just have the really wonderful ones on display somewhere. Framed up, hung on the wall, put on a shelf. Now, I'm not telling you to put 250 things on the shelf, okay? Let me just clarify. I'm saying think about how the decorator would do it. The decorator would pick 3, 4, 5 really cool things and put them out So there's air around them and you can actually see them, and there we go again. It's Houston humidity, sorry. What can I say? So that you get the enjoyment out of the sentimental items, and you get to feel like, I mean, the whole purpose of keeping the keepsakes is because you want to keep your contact with the person and the memory that goes with that object. And if it's in a box somewhere, you're not keeping that contact, right? So put it on display, and it's a way to take the representative sample, put it out there, get the best ones in the business, the best ones in the collection, and then it makes it easier to let go of the rest because you've got some of them hanging on the wall staring at you every day, right? I have lots of artwork from my mother, and I have to say that I love walking into my bedroom, and one of the 2 things that I've hung so far is a picture that was above my mother's bedroom and above her bed, and so now it's above my bed, and I love coming home every day and seeing that picture on the wall. That makes me super happy. If that was in a box somewhere, I don't know that I would remember it specifically. Someday if I open the box, I would. You see the difference? It's like I'm getting to look at it every day instead of it's in the box and I sort of vaguely know it's there, but I'm not getting enjoyment out of it that way. I come home every day from work and walk in my room, and there is the picture, and it makes me super happy to see it. So taking those pieces and honoring them by putting them up gives you some of the sentimental value that's driving you to keep the things anyway in the first place, and lets you then go, okay, I have these 5 things on the walls, and these are the best ones. So I can probably let these go on to somebody else and live at somebody else's house. Does that make sense? Okay. So what did I do with my glasses? I kept the current pair, obviously, because I would not be able to see your faces otherwise. I took the most recent previous pair and put it away, because if you sit on your glasses or you lose the glasses or you break the glasses, you're dead in the water. So you got to have an emergency pair so I can slap them on my face while I go about finding, spending a week getting a new pair of glasses, however long it takes, right? And the rest went into the little box. And I closed the little box, and, it was really, really hard, but I did it. I took my picture. I went on the meetup thing. It's on the Facebook page. It's in my phone. I have all my pictures, and I put them in the box. And that is what I'm hoping for you. I know that it isn't going to be easy for you to make the choices. By definition, this is the stuff that we struggle with. If it's not sentimental, it's super easy to choose, right? So I know it's going to be hard, but you're surrendering everything that you let go, everything that you go through and filter. You keep the good stuff, you let go of the mediocre stuff, gives you back living space and lets you live in a cleaner, easier, happier space in your house. And that's what I'm hoping for you. I don't want you to live in a storage unit. I want you to live someplace cool. Okay, so I'm going to pause for questions, and I want to say hi to everybody in the UK and France, and hi to the Australia group. And we have somebody from Brazil watching as well. Thank you so much for sending me notes, and I appreciate getting the emails, and I hope you guys keep watching. Yay! And you guys get to talk to me now about sentiment. And there's a whole lot of reaction over here all throughout this conversation. So, hands up. What are we talking about today? Yes.
I'm just going to say guilty. Yesterday was my mother's passing. I was the executrix of her estate. She's been gone for 7 years. And I was going through some papers. Every about 2 years I'll start dwindling more papers down. And the 1982 receipt from her dentist that did the caps on her teeth brought me to tears. And I had to look the guy up, and I think I'm going to be able to throw it after tonight.
Yay! You never know what it's going to be, right?
Random.
All right?
I'm not going to hang it on the wall.
It's a receipt. It's just a receipt. It was just some business she transacted, right? You know that. Remember a long time ago I talked about the video of the lady in New York who had to clear out her mother's apartment, and she found it was the glasses and also the toothbrushes or the teeth cap or something, a mouth guard or something that she couldn't throw away. It was like, but that's mom. Mom was wearing it, and so they were doing it 3 weeks after she had died, so it was very fresh for her. But those kinds of things are hard for us in the beginning. Like, it touched her body, right? I can't let go of it because it touched her. And this is like twice removed from that. This is like the piece of paper where she paid to get the cash for the teeth, right? So I get it, but good for you. Keep going.
25
Well,
years ago.
the Catholic Church venerates relics of the saints, and it's that idea. We kind of all have that intrinsically.
The instinct,
it's like,
right?
well, first there's the thing that's actually part of the person, and then past that it's the clothes they wore, and then there's
the things that they touched,
things that they handled,
yeah.
And it all seems imbued with meaning.
Yes, it does, and it all feels very connected. Like, if we keep it, we keep our connection, and it's part of your evolution, I think, to recognize that it isn't really the thing. It's your own memories and your own thoughts about it. And yes, all of those things help your memories, and you still don't have to keep all of them. You can keep some of them. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I'm just glad you mentioned the handwriting, because my mom is still living, thank God.
Right.
But I have everything she's ever written, and I always thought, oh, this is kind of weird, that I saved every card that she ever sent me. And she used to write more than she does now, but I didn't realize that the handwriting was such a powerful thing for other
Well, it
people.
is, right? Because it's a style. Like, you can recognize your mother's handwriting next to somebody else's handwriting, right? It's just like that, in their favorite color or whatever, what their shoes they would pick. It's really very particular to them, right? And so, how many do you think you got? She asked trepidatiously.
It's contained, it's contained.
It's contained? Okay, all right, good. I have
And
to
over
say,
over my lifetime.
Right.
It's not.
and the thing about it is, the stuff that's sentimental today is so not sentimental 10 years from now or 20 years from now. Like, the things that I put aside in a little box when I was in high school, I would pick them up and look at them and go, really? I don't even remember that guy's name. Like, I don't know who that is. It's like, it loses what feels juicy today is not so juicy 3 decades from now. Now, clearly, you remember your mother, and it's not, that's going to hold on for a while. But there's going to be other stuff that you save in the moment, people that you work with, and friends that you have acquaintances with that you know for a period of time, and then later, there's like they've gone on their way, and your paths are no longer together, and you're like, I don't remember who that is. Like, what am I doing with a picture of their kids, right? You don't know. So you can go back and filter. You're going to put things in as keepsakes now, and you're going to go back 10 years from now and go, yeah, okay, all these things are still important, but these are not, and now I can throw them out, right? And it's the whole, you do with sentimental things the same thing you do with the stuff you bring in your house. You have to circle back, and you can't just keep adding. You have to start taking out as well. It has to be part of your routine that things subtract. So if the keepsake pile has to fit in this closet because you live in 250 square feet and you only have one half of a closet to fill with keepsakes, you can't just keep shoving more in there. The closet's not moving, right? You're going to have to go back and circle back and go through it and take things out and say, okay, I don't need that one anymore. I don't need that one anymore. Now, because I got new things to put in, I got new friends, I got new things going on, right? And we get back to, if you have a big house and you got 4 closets you can fill with keepsakes, you get to keep more. And you get to piss off your family more when you die and they have to clean it out. I'm just saying. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
So I wrote a list, just my technology. So it started with my Viewmaster, the handheld.
right.
All the record players, and my parents wouldn't give me the hi-fi because at 50 I'm not responsible enough to have that wooden ring.
At 50, you're not responsible enough for the high
They're not
five.
letting it go.
Oh, funny.
They don't use it, they put a TV on top of it. But my concern is the transistor radio. So when I found the globe-shaped one with the string on it, the chain, it still had batteries in it that have corroded. And I was upset because I was like, had they not corroded, I could, and I'm thinking, I could what? I have radio in the car, I have the internet on my desk.
You have a radio on your phone. I mean,
Right, but it's globe shaped and somebody somewhere would be interested to see it. I don't know.
Okay, we recognize this syndrome, right? We've heard this story before. Yes. Okay, so yes, somebody might think it was cool and they might think it's a collector's item and you can put it aside if you want. But you have to recognize that you're not going to use it for its original use. That ship has sailed, right? So you're beyond actually using it. So now you're keeping it for entertainment factor, collectible factor, keepsake factor. So if you want to hook it up with a person that collects old technology, go for it. But then my next question is always, do you have that kind of time?
Well, it's in my parents' house in the twin beds with the shelves and stuff.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it's been there for 4 decades, right?
It was right where I left it.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So I'm just telling you, better now than after they've passed and you have to clean out the house.
Well, it started out with me asking her, should I get rid of my VCR? That's VCR.
Okay. What's the answer, class?
Yes.
Yes.
She said no. Because it's under a table. Because I'm always thinking, I didn't think the whole DVD thing would take off. So I kept the.
I think it did.
And it's gone now.
Yeah, so I think so here's the only place that I've ever made use of the old VCR tapes. I took them to one of my friends, her mother's in a senior place, and they do movie night on the VCR machine at the place. So they didn't need a machine, but they needed VCR tapes.
Okay.
So I took them a collection of tapes. But why they still had a VCR machine is beyond me. And I bet that not every senior home has a VCR tape that they're using sitting around on a machine that they're using. So it was just a fluke that I could channel off a little bit. And trust me, I have taken a whole lot more of VCR tapes to the trash. And they go to the library. I take them to the library to donate them sometimes too. But I think the library just shoots them out to recycle. So, yeah. That's the nature of technology. It does get retired, and it gets retired in our lifetimes, which is unusual for us as a generation, that we're the ones watching it live and die, and live and die, and live and die, right? Yes, sir.
I had 2 questions. One was regarding these VCR tapes. If they have old vacations and stuff, do you try to convert them or just get rid of them?
Well, it depends on how attached you are to them, right? So it costs money to have them plugged into the machine and scanned into a digital format. If you love that vacation so much that you need to be able to watch it on a current media, and you're willing to spend, the equivalent of a dinner out at a steakhouse to get it, awesome. But it's going to cost you money. I mean, and a lot of times people have, just like they took before motion picture camera, we took 47,000 photos of every vacation, right? Slides, right? And then we went to the motion picture version, right? And so when you're trying to convert all of that inventory, like somebody that bought the 8mm camera, and then my grandfather took videos everywhere that they went for a decade, and you have 1 million tapes, it's going to be a serious investment to convert it. If it's worth it to you, go for it. If you don't have the budget for it, you better pick the the representative sample. I want to convert this 1, this 2, this 3, and spend $300 instead of $3,000 to convert them. The second question is?
Second question was regarding those collectible kind of thingies. So we recently, her parents moved from out of state.
6,000 square feet, over 40 years of stuff that came from 2 previous houses into that house. And we had less than 2 weeks to clean everything out.
Oh my God!
We had to rent a 20-foot dumpster that got overfilled, and we actually had to go dumpster diving and remove some of the trash because they wouldn't remove the dumpster.
Oh, because it was over the
gosh.
fill line.
And
I'm so sorry. Oh my God!
my parents are living nearby me now, and they downsized. However, when they moved their stuff, I mean, because there was just so much stuff and we didn't have enough time, so we just ended up moving it. Well, now
It's
part
in
of their
storage.
stuff is occupying in my house about 400 square feet, I'd say, of their stuff is in my house.
Yeah.
And a lot of that stuff, some of it is from my childhood that I'm willing to give up. But the thing is that they were collectibles, like, toys that are in pretty good use condition that, I just did a few searches for some of them on eBay, and some of these things are actually selling. So my thought was,
the deal is that you can try to convert them to money,
right,
but you have to be willing to spend the time.
It's about the time.
So each one of the things, it takes an hour and a half basically to list each item, and you're going to spend an hour and a half on the back end answering all the emails, packaging, going to the post office, whatever. So every item that you sell is going to take some time for you to do it.
Right.
And so if it's worth the effort to get the money, cool. You can make that a little bit easier if you bulk it, like you offer 5 of them in one thing,
Right.
and they have to buy 5 and you're going to ship 5.
It's also about just the research though to see what these things are going for, because that all takes time too.
Well, right. I mean, the idea of taking something and converting it to money means I'm going to be a mini store. I'm going to do everything that a retail person does in order to convert an item to cash, right? That's what people do when they sell stuff. So in order for you to make things be cash, you got to act like a store, and there's work involved. If it's worth it to you, awesome. Hold on, she came up next.
I was just going to say, if you are interested in selling it and not wanting to spend as much time, you might be willing to lose a percentage of that sale and take it to a place that's what they do, is put it on eBay, do it, and they will take a fee, but at least you're getting some money for it,
Right.
and feeling like it's not just being trashed, but it's also out of your house.
Exactly.
You can also, I mean, that's the somebody else puts it on Craigslist or eBay for you version. Then there's also, you can take it to a resale store and put it out there, and basically any place that you do, the way that you get the most amount of money is that the person that is collecting and valuing the stuff the most connects with your item, that they recognize the value.
Finding the right buyer.
And finding the right buyer requires a lot of time and effort, and getting in the right place at the right time. You can put it on eBay, but if the right person doesn't see it, you're not going to get what you think you should get for it. So that magic, I'm on HGTV and I'm finding I'm getting the top dollar for my cool thing. That requires effort. There's a reason why people do that for a living, because it requires effort. So, being able to put your thing somewhere to make money is going to require some time and effort.
Are there still eBay stores out there or not? Does anybody know?
I thought there was one in Greenway Plaza, but I'm not for sure.
So in the Houston area, I think that there's not a whole lot. There's probably there are some people that will do the work for you, I think, but you're going to have to search that person out. Yes?
On that same related topic, so we have about 50 big boxes stuffed in our game room area.
Surrendering the game room.
Since last 4 months.
Okay.
And our thinking was we'll get rid of all these things before Christmas, but we have not even opened one box so far.
Because you know why, right? Because y'all were traumatized big time. Like that whole 6,000 square feet in 2 weeks in the dumpster, that's like so overwhelming. I'm sure you guys were completely exhausted and overwhelmed at the end of that.
And then the next problem is trying to prevent this from happening in their current house. So when all the stuff came, they already had clutter, and we had the night before, we're like, oh my gosh, we won't have room for your stuff that's coming. So we purged and took out lots of garbage, but I mean, of course they were yelling at us and like, no, you can't get rid of that. And so then it was, we made room for it, but a lot of those boxes have not been unpacked. And so we're thinking, okay, what do we do to keep this under control for this house? Because again, we are going to be the ones that end up being responsible for.
Okay, so I'm going to say something you're not going to like. No, well, yeah, you can hire a professional, but somebody that's been living at that level of chaos for that long without feeling distressed or upset about it is not going to change their ways now. Like that's a whole lot of mental shift to ask them to make at their age in their condition. So retraining them is not going to be your solution. I would work on the things that are in your house and then try to take boxes away from their house to your house and work on them. Like, subtract things from them with permission. But, Mom, I'm going to go through this box for you or whatever, get permission to move it. But I think I would resign yourselves to this is a project you're going to have to deal with after they're gone.
Because what happened originally is they were supposed to help in the beginning,
No.
but after 3
No.
days, they got so distressed, so we sent them here.
Yeah,
We said,
yeah,
you go
yeah.
away, we'll
Yeah,
take it.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
better
yeah.
you just let us.
And that's why I'm saying, I think clearly that was their lifestyle. They were living in that environment. They're accustomed to it. They have no desire to make shifts about this. It's not going to be in their DNA to do that. So don't, and if you try to push it, you're going to get
Yeah.
serious pushback and distress, right?
Right.
So,
And it's not in our DNA either. I mean, we have our own pile of clutter and.
But that's different.
right? So that's different. I think it is good training to do the stuff that's already in your house that's related to them. You're going to have to do it anyway. You might as well go through it. Yes, ma'am.
But it seems like when you have collectibles and you have this reluctance to really try to sell it on your own, I think it seems like in the back of your mind, maybe the person is thinking, I want it to go to a good home. So then your trade-off is, okay, just hire a professional. You're not going to get the money that you're not going to get 100% of the dollar. But at least in your heart,
It went to somebody who
it
wanted
went to somebody,
it.
it went to a good home and you got a little something for it. And that's just your trade-off. But then it's out of your house.
Right.
And so then you can accept
But that process for everything that you own
well, it's kind
will be 6 decades later. You'll still be getting stuff out of your house. I mean, unless you want your full-time job to be going through and selling everything and constantly putting stuff up to make it. It's selling your stuff is not a high volume solution. It's a high dollar, low volume solution.
I just meant on something that was like
Yeah,
collectibles.
well, right, yeah.
not
Yeah, exactly. Yes, ma'am.
I apologize, I had an appointment, so you may have gone over this.
Oh, no worries.
Yeah. First of all, I definitely have more in my house than my house.
Than you wanna live with.
hold. Yeah, and, but all my life, I have had very poor memory, like not being able to remember what happened a couple of weeks ago or whatever.
Right.
So there are things that I have, and that is the memory.
Right.
And so I have a hard time. As a matter of fact, if something falls and breaks, I go, oh, thank God.
That was, oh, thank God, she said. So this is where you will benefit from the concept of keeping a representative sample, right? So you've got a whole bunch of things related to memory A, and you can keep the best ones and let the rest go, because you know you have these 3 things that remind you about fill in the blank, and you can it isn't the volume that helps you remember, it's the specific trigger that helps you remember, right? So you don't need 50 pictures, you just need 2 to trigger the memory, right? So it's a volume thing.
Tchotchke things.
Tchotchke things, yeah. Okay.
The
All right,
other
so-
thing, I have one other thing.
Sure.
I have things that came from my grandparents' house that came from their parents' house. I have antiques in
Right,
there.
right.
And my son, my nieces and nephews have no interest anymore. I mean, they want something else, modern.
They want their own stuff.
And it's not like our generation, we venerated those things, you know, and so I've got these beautiful antiques, and I hate to just let go of them to somebody.
So here's the
I
thing.
don't know.
You can keep them all, but they're came from more than one house, right? So you've got several houses into your house. That's the first problem. You can't live with them all. And you want the ones that work in your space, that decorate how you want it decorated, right? And there are other people that are into antiques, and you can let those go through used furniture, through antique store, through auction, and let people collect. Oh my God, this is the fabulous buffet, and that buffet will be perfect in my new dining room, right? So I would pick the ones that are the best for your house, and then think your way through letting the other ones go off and let other antique collectors collect them and use them. Because if they're just getting in your way and messing with your house because you feel bad about letting go about the antiques, you're surrendering quality of life because you're not comfortable getting rid of this furniture. And think about on the other end, if somebody goes to an auction or goes to a furniture resale store and finds this perfect thing to decorate their house, they'll be so happy. And they won't have to have 50 pieces from your house, but they're going to have the exact perfect right one to take home, and they're going to be thrilled. And right now, it's not thrilling you, it's making you unhappy. So you might as well keep the ones that thrill you and decorate your house in a way that thrills you, and then let the rest go and thrill somebody else. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because in Colorado Springs, I lived 3 blocks from an auction house, and I thought my own.
No, don't go shopping for more.
No, this was 30, 40 years ago, but.
All right, well, so I'm going to wrap up for tonight. I want to thank you guys for coming, and when we get